Your dog has been alone for 6 hours. You open the front door, and before you have taken a single step inside, they are already there. Not because they heard the lock, not because they heard your footsteps on the path. They were at the door before any of that. They knew you were coming before you knew you were arriving. If you have lived with a dog for more than a few months, this is not surprising to you. It is just Tuesday. It is just how dogs are. But how dogs are is one of the most studied and most misunderstood things in all of animal behavior research, because the explanation for that moment at the door, and for every other behavior your dog produces every day, goes deeper than most owners ever get to. The reason you do not fully understand why dogs behave the way they do is not because the information is complicated. It is because almost everything owners are told about dog behavior skips the foundation and goes straight to the surface. You get told what dogs do. Almost nobody explains why at the level that actually makes sense of all of it. This video is that explanation, all of it, in one place. By the end, the moment at the door will not just be something your dog does. It will be something you understand, and so will everything else. Let's start at the actual beginning. How dogs actually process the world. The first thing to understand about dog behavior is that your dog does not experience the world the way you do. Not approximately the way you do, not similarly, differently at a fundamental level in almost every sensory channel, simultaneously. Your dog's nose contains 300 million olfactory receptors compared to your 6 million. The portion of their brain dedicated to analyzing smell is proportionally 40 times larger than yours, which means when your dog walks into a room, they receive a detailed chemical history of everything that has happened in that space. Who was there? When? What their emotional state was? Whether anything has changed since the last time the dog was present. Their hearing range extends to 65,000 hertz. Yours tops out around 20,000 hertz. Your dog hears frequencies you will never detect at distances that would register as silence to you. The world your dog navigates is filled with information that is completely invisible to you. In 2015, Alexandra Horowitz at Columbia University's Dog Cognition Lab published research summarizing what dogs actually perceive moment to moment. Her conclusion was that a dog entering an average room receives an amount of environmental information that would take a human several minutes of careful examination to partially approximate. For the dog, it registers in seconds. This matters for behavior because every behavior your dog produces is a response to information. When you do not have access to the information they are responding to, their behavior looks random or irrational or like a quirk. It is almost never any of those things. It is almost always a precise response to something real that you simply could not detect. That is the foundation everything else is built on. Why dogs do not think the way you do? Dogs do not think in language. This sounds obvious stated plainly, but the practical implications are almost never fully understood by owners. What dogs do think in is association, prediction, and sensory experience. Association is the most powerful cognitive tool a dog has. Over thousands of repetitions, their brain builds maps of what predicts what. Your keys predict your departure, your shoes predict a walk. The particular way you move on a Friday evening predicts something different from the way you move on a Monday morning. These maps are extraordinarily precise and largely invisible to you because you were not aware you were being studied while they were being built. Prediction is what the dog does with those maps. Every moment of every day, your dog is running a continuous forecast of what is about to happen based on the sensory information currently available. That forecast governs their behavioral state before the event occurs, which is why your dog is already excited before you reach the leash hook. Why they are already alert before you say anything. They predicted it. The behavior started before the trigger you were aware of. In 2011, researchers at the University of Vienna studying canine cognition found that dogs outperformed chimpanzees in tasks requiring them to read human social cues and predict human behavior. Dogs are not generally more intelligent than chimpanzees. They are specifically extraordinarily good at reading and predicting humans. That skill was selected over 15,000 years of living alongside us and being rewarded for getting it right. Your dog is not reacting to you. They are anticipating you. The behavior you see is almost always one step ahead of the moment you think caused it. The 4 drives behind almost every behavior. Underneath almost every behavior your dog produces, one of 4 drives is running the engine. The first is the prey drive, the instinct to chase, catch, and possess moving objects. This is why your dog loses their mind over a squirrel, a ball, a child running across a park, a plastic bag moving in the wind. The trigger is movement. The drive is ancient. It has nothing to do with hunger and nothing to do with aggression. It is a motivational system that predates domestication by hundreds of thousands of years, and it does not switch off because the dog lives in a house. The second is the pack drive, the need for social connection, hierarchy clarity, and belonging. Dogs are not built to be alone. They are built to exist within a social structure where roles are clear and relationships are stable. When a dog becomes anxious about where they fit, when leadership in the household is ambiguous or inconsistent, the pack drive generates behaviors that look like problems, but are actually the dog attempting to resolve an uncertainty their nervous system cannot tolerate. The third is the defense drive. This drive accounts for barking at strangers, resource guarding, reactivity on leash, and a significant portion of what owners call aggression. The dog is not being bad. They're running a threat response system that is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is usually that the threat assessment is miscalibrated, not that the dog is broken. The fourth is the food drive. Not just hunger, but the motivational pull of reward and the behaviors built around obtaining it. This drive is what makes training possible. It is also what drives counter-surfing, garbage rating, and the specific expression your dog produces when you open the refrigerator at 10 p.m. Most behavior problems are not problems at all. They are one of these four drives expressing itself in a context the owner finds inconvenient. Understanding which drive is running gives you the only accurate map of how to respond. How dogs use their body to talk. Dogs do not have language, but they are not quiet. Every position of the tail, every angle of the ear, every tension state in the body, every direction of the gaze is transmitting information simultaneously in real time. And most owners are reading maybe one signal at a time while the dog is broadcasting 5. The tail is the one most owners watch, but tail position alone is almost meaningless without context. A high, stiff tail and a low, loose tail are both wagging tails. The first signals high arousal and potential challenge. The second signals relaxation and openness. The wag is not the message. The position, speed, and body state around the wag is the message. Ears are more reliable than the tail because dogs have less voluntary control over ear position. Ears pulled back flat against the head signal, fear or appeasement. Ears forward and erect signal alertness or challenge. Ears relaxed to the side signal comfort. This is true across most breeds, though the architecture of some breeds makes it harder to read. The mouth is the most overlooked channel. A soft, slightly open mouth with a relaxed jaw signals a dog in a comfortable state. A closed, tight mouth signals tension. Yawning in a context with no obvious fatigue is a calming signal. The dog is telling you or another dog that they are not a threat. Lip licking in a social context is appeasement. Teeth showing without vocalization is a warning that precedes a bite far more reliably than any bark. In 2013, researchers at the University of Lincoln studying dog-human communication found that humans correctly identified dog emotional states from body language at an accuracy rate of approximately 60% for fear and aggression signals, and significantly lower for more subtle states like stress, conflict, and appeasement. The signals most consistently missed were the ones that precede escalation. The body language you learn to read first determines whether you catch what your dog is saying before they have to say it louder. Why dogs repeat behaviors that seem irrational. Your dog has done it 100 times. You have told them no 100 times, and they do it again. The standard explanation owners reach for is stubbornness. The dog knows. They're just choosing not to comply. But stubbornness implies that the dog has weighed the options, considered your preference, and decided against it. And that is not what is happening. What is happening is reinforcement history. Every behavior a dog repeats has been reinforced. Not necessarily by you, not necessarily intentionally, but something at some point made that behavior pay off, and the dog's brain filed it as a strategy worth repeating. The dog barking at the mail carrier watches the mail carrier leave every single day. From the dog's perspective, the barking works. The threat departs. The behavior is reinforced on a 100% schedule. The dog jumping on guests got attention the first time. Maybe the attention was negative, a shout, a pushback, but attention is attention. For a social animal running a pack drive, any response from a person is a form of contact. The behavior was reinforced. In 2017, researchers at the University of Exeter, studying behavioral persistence in dogs, found that behaviors reinforced on variable schedules, where the reward comes sometimes but not always, Intermittent reinforcement does not weaken a behavior. It makes it nearly permanent. A dog repeating a behavior that seems irrational is not ignoring you. They are following the only logic their brain has access to. The behavior worked before. Their internal record says so. Until that record is updated with enough contradictory evidence, the behavior continues. You're not dealing with stubbornness. You're dealing with data. The stress response. Most owners know what a stressed dog looks like. Trembling, tail tucked, ears flat, refusing to move. What most owners do not know is that by the time a dog reaches those behaviors, they have already been stressed for considerably longer than the owner realized. Stress in dogs builds through a sequence. The early signals are subtle and easy to miss. Yawning in a non-tired context, lip licking when no food is present, a sudden shift in posture, looking away from something they were just looking at, sniffing the ground in a situation where sniffing makes no contextual sense. These are calming signals. The dog's attempt to self-regulate and communicate non-threat before the stress escalates further. And if the early signals are not noticed and the stressor is not reduced, the response escalates. Panting increases. Movement becomes either frantic or frozen. The dog may start shedding in unusual amounts, a physiological stress response. They may stop taking food they would normally eat without hesitation, a reliable indicator that cortisol levels have risen past a certain threshold. In 2019, researchers at the University of Helsinki, studying stress indicators in dogs across 13,000 owner-reported cases, found that the behaviors owners most commonly identified as stress indicators, the early-stage calming signals were reported as noticed by fewer than 30% of owners, which means most dogs are communicating stress for minutes, sometimes longer, before anyone in the room knows they are stressed. The dog that snapped without warning, almost always warned. The owner just did not have the vocabulary to read it. If this is giving you a framework you have never had before, subscribe. We cover dog behavior at this depth every week. It is free, and it will change what you see when you look at your dog. What your dog actually needs from you. Everything covered so far, the sensory world dogs navigate, the drives running their behavior, the stress they communicate before anyone notices, points to the same 4 things. The first is predictability. Dogs do not need a perfect environment. They need a consistent one. A dog that knows what to expect from its household can regulate itself even in difficult moments. A dog living in an unpredictable environment where rules change, where emotional responses from their owner are inconsistent, where the daily structure shifts without pattern, is running a continuous low-grade stress response, whether or not it is visible. Consistency is not strict discipline. It is the framework inside which a dog's nervous system can finally rest. The second is clear communication, not more words, clearer signals. Dogs read bodies before they read voices. The owner who says no while laughing is sending a contradictory message. The owner who crouches down, makes eye contact, and speaks calmly is sending a unified one. Align your body, your voice, and your intent. The gap between those 3 things is where almost all training confusion lives. The third is species-appropriate activity. Walking covers physical exercise. It does not cover mental exercise, social exercise, or sensory exercise. A dog that walks 30 minutes a day and does nothing else is physically maintained and mentally understimulated. Sniff walks, problem-solving activities, social exposure to other dogs, unstructured time in a safe environment where the dog makes its own choices. These are not luxuries. They are the baseline a dog's brain was built to need. The fourth is secure attachment. One person in the dog's life who is consistent, readable, and responsive. Not perfect, not always present, but predictable enough that the dog's internal forecast for that person is reliable. That security is what allows every other behavior in this video to express itself in its healthiest form rather than its most distressed one. The one behavior that tells you everything. We started at the door, your dog, already there, before your key was in the lock. Here's what was actually happening in that moment, and why it is the single behavior that contains almost everything you now know. 30 minutes before you arrived, your dog's cortisol levels began to shift, not because they heard anything, because their internal clock, calibrated over months to your daily schedule, told them the window of your return was approaching. The same biological system that wakes them up before your alarm went off in the morning activated again. They moved to the door not in response to a signal, but in anticipation of one. When your scent reached them through the door seal, their olfactory system confirmed what the clock had predicted. The chemical information arriving through the gap told them not just that you were there, but how your day had been, your cortisol level, your physical state, whether you were moving toward the door quickly or slowly, all of it, processed before the lock turned. The behavior at the door, the excitement, the greeting, the specific way your dog presents themselves to you in that first moment is the output of all 4 drives simultaneously. Pack drive, the primary attachment figure, has returned to the group. Food drive, if your arrival has historically preceded feeding. Defense drive, releasing from the alert state the house has been in since you left. And underneath all of it, the deep prediction system updating its forecast, they came back again. The record holds. A 2020 study at the University of Veterinary Medicine, Vienna, tracked the neurological response of dogs at owner return across 40 households. Brain activity during owner return was measurably distinct from their response to any other stimulus, including food, play objects, and familiar strangers. The owner triggered a response in a category of its own, not because you feed them, not because you train them, because over months and years of accumulated evidence, your dog's brain has built a representation of you that sits at the center of how they understand everything else. You are not just someone they live with. You are the reference point their entire internal world is organized around. Every behavior this video covered, the following, the licking, the watching you sleep, the stress when you leave, the position they take beside you at night, it all comes back to that. Your dog is not complicated. They are precise. And what they are most precisely oriented toward in every room at every hour through every behavior this video explained is you.